Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. This time, we're exploring the world of herbal alchemy.
Ooh, sounds exciting.
It is, and to help me unpack all this, I've got an expert joining me.
That's me. Glad to be here.
We'll be looking at Frater Albertus's book, Alchemists Handbook. Specifically, we're going to be diving into practical alchemy, the hands-on stuff.
Yeah, when most people think about alchemy, they think about turning lead into gold.
Yeah.
But that's really just a small piece.
Right. It's not the whole picture.
Yeah, alchemy is really more about understanding the vital forces that are in all matter,
Okay.
whether it be vegetable, animal, or mineral, and then using that knowledge to create powerful medicines and elixirs.
So it's about understanding the energy and everything around us, and then, using that knowledge to create stuff.
Exactly. Alchemy really emphasizes the interconnectedness of everything.
Cool.
Yeah, and to do that, alchemists categorize everything in nature into three distinct kingdoms. You've got the vegetable kingdom, the animal kingdom, and the mineral kingdom. And each of these kingdoms has its own unique energy, its own vibration. And alchemists call this energy mercury.
Wait, hold on. Mercury, like the stuff in thermometers.
Not quite. This isn't the quicksilver you're thinking of. In alchemy, mercury is more like a blueprint or a vital life force that's specific to each of the kingdoms.
Okay, so it's not the element mercury. Got it.
Yeah.
So a sunflower's mercury would be different from, I don't know, like a diamond's mercury.
Exactly. They both have this vital life force, this mercury, but they vibrate at different frequencies, so to speak.
Right, because they're different.
Yeah. And here's where things get really interesting. The alchemists were very clear that you should not mix mercuries from different kingdoms.
Okay.
Each kingdom's work should stay within its own realm.
So, you wouldn't use the processes for working with plants on mineral.
Precisely. It's all about respecting the natural order of things.
It's about not messing with stuff that shouldn't be messed with.
Yeah. And this idea is particularly relevant when we talk about herbal alchemy.
Herbal alchemy, is that like a specific type of alchemy?
Yeah, sometimes referred to as the lesser circulation. And it focuses specifically on working with plants to create elixirs.
Okay, so how do you actually make one of these elixirs? What's the process?
Well, it's a three-step process.
Okay.
Starts with extraction, then you move on to calcination, and finally there's coagulation.
3 steps, all right. So first step, extraction.
Right, and this is where you draw out the essence of the plant.
I'm picturing a witch's cauldron over a fire. Am I on the right track?
Well, maybe not quite as dramatic.
Okay.
Frater Albertus actually talks about using something called a sock slit extractor.
A sock slit?
Extractor, yeah. It's basically this cool contraption that continuously cycles alcohol through the plant material. It's a very efficient way to pull out the essence.
Okay, so there's this special tool, the sock slit extractor, but what if, you don't have one of those fancy extractors just lying around?
Don't worry. There's a much simpler method called maceration.
Maceration. Okay.
Basically, you just soak the herbs in alcohol for a long, long time.
How long are we talking?
Well, the longer the better. We're talking weeks, maybe even months.
Wow, so patience is key here.
Absolutely. It allows the plant's essence to slowly infuse into the alcohol.
So, okay, we've extracted the essence. Now what?
Next comes calcination.
Calcination, okay.
And now, this doesn't involve actually burning the plant.
Okay.
It's a much gentler process.
Right.
Basically, you heat the leftover plant material after the extraction until it turns into ash.
So we're not, setting the plant on fire.
No. It's all about a very controlled, gentle heating process. And the purpose of calcination is to extract what alchemists call the plant's salts.
Salts, huh? What are those?
Think of them as the building blocks of the plant, like its grounding force.
Okay.
So now you've got this liquid essence from the extraction and these salts from the calcination. The next step is to combine them.
Ooh.
That's where coagulation comes in.
Coagulation, got it.
Yeah, you take the salts and dissolve them in a little bit of distilled water.
Okay.
And then very, very carefully, you combine that solution with the alcohol tincture, the essence from the first step.
Interesting.
And that's essentially how you make an herbal elixir.
It sounds, simpler than I expected.
Maybe.
But I have to ask, how do you know how much of this elixir to actually take? Is there a standard dosage?
That's a great question, and it leads us to another key figure in alchemy, Paracelsus.
Paracelsus, okay.
He was both a physician and an alchemist.
Cool.
And he believed that the correct dosage was crucial.
It really matters how much you take.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He actually compared the potency of alchemically prepared medicines to the small but powerful doses used in homeopathy.
So it's not about just chugging down a bottle of elixir.
No, no, no. It's all about finding the right balance for each person and their individual needs.
It's about working with the body's natural healing intelligence.
Exactly. So dosage is a really important consideration in herbal alchemy. Now, going back to Frater Albertus,
Yeah.
he actually mentions how he found this one alchemical text,
Okay.
and he says it was literally worth its weight in gold
Wow.
because it explained everything so clearly. He clearly valued this knowledge.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
And that knowledge was very closely guarded.
Like top secret stuff.
Pretty much. Alchemists even had a specific oath that they swore.
An oath.
Yeah, promising to use their knowledge ethically, to protect it from those who might misuse it, and to keep it secret.
It's like they understood the power of what they were working with.
Right. They recognized that this knowledge came with a responsibility.
Powerful stuff.
Yeah.
So we've learned about the three kingdoms, the Mercuries, and even a little bit about the process of creating herbal elixirs.
We've only just scratched the surface.
There's so much more to uncover, so get ready to dive even deeper into the world of herbal alchemy in part 2.
Looking forward to it.
Me too. Okay, we're back, ready to keep going down this alchemical rabbit hole. And before the break, we were just starting to talk about this mysterious philosopher's mercury.
Right, and it's important to remember this isn't the same mercury you'd find in, like, a thermometer. This is something much more subtle. The alchemists believe this philosopher's mercury is a vital life force that's actually present in all matter.
So it's like the essence of everything, like the core energy.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the seed from which all life springs forth. And remember how we were talking about those three kingdoms earlier?
Plant, animal, mineral, yeah.
Right, and we said each of those kingdoms has its own unique mercury.
Right, like a sunflower has its own mercury and a diamond has its own mercury.
Well, the alchemists believe this philosopher's mercury is actually the source of all those individual mercuries, like the root system connecting everything.
Okay, I think I'm starting to get it, but how does this philosopher's mercury actually relate to those herbal elixirs we were talking about?
Well, the alchemists believe that by working with plants, you could actually tap into this philosopher's mercury and harness its power. Yeah. And you remember those 3 steps we talked about for making an elixir: extraction, calcination, and coagulation.
Yeah, they sounded pretty simple.
Well, they might sound simple, but they're not just about, chopping up plants and mixing stuff together.
So there's more to it than that.
The alchemists believed these steps were actually about unlocking and concentrating that vital life force within the plant, that philosopher's mercury.
So it's like by following these steps, you're not just making an elixir, you're also like infusing it with this powerful philosopher's mercury energy.
Exactly. It's about taking the plant's natural healing properties and elevating them, amplifying them to a whole new level.
Wow, okay. So let's talk more about that extraction process. You mentioned this thing called a soxhlet extractor before.
Oh yeah, the soxhlet extractor. It's
Yeah.
a pretty ingenious invention.
What's it like? Picturing all sorts of like bubbling liquids and tubes and mysterious vapors.
Oh, you're not too far off. It's basically this series of interconnected glass chambers. And the way it works is you heat up alcohol, which creates this vapor.
Okay. And that vapor rises up and it passes through the plant material, extracting the essence as it goes. And then the vapor cools and it condenses back into liquid, carrying that plant essence down into a collection flask.
So it's like a continuous cycle of extracting the essence.
Exactly. And it's incredibly efficient at pulling out the purest form of the plant's, you could say, the plant's mercury.
Okay, so that's the high-tech method. But I think you mentioned there's a simpler method too, right? Like for those of us who don't have one of these fancy soxhlet extractor things just sitting around.
Exactly. Frater Albertus describes this simpler method called maceration. And basically all you do is you submerge your herbs in alcohol for a long period of time.
So like how long?
It really depends on the herb and what you're trying to achieve. But
Yeah.
we're talking weeks, maybe even months in some cases.
Wow, so patience is definitely a virtue when it comes to alchemy.
It really is. And as that plant material sits in the alcohol, the essence slowly infuses into the liquid. Okay, so we've got our plant essence either through the fancy soxhlet extractor or through good old-fashioned patience and maceration. What happens next?
Right, so next comes calcination. And this is where we take the leftover plant material, the stuff that's been soaking in the alcohol,
Okay,
and we heat it very gently until it turns to ash.
so we're burning it.
Not quite. It's not about burning the plant. It's more about like coaxing out the hidden salts within the plant. It's a very slow and controlled process.
Salts, huh? So what's so important about these salts?
Well, the alchemists viewed these salts as the fixed and stable essence of the plant, like a grounding force that helps to balance out that more volatile essence we extracted with the alcohol.
Okay, so we've got this light, airy essence from the alcohol and these heavy, earthy salts. And what do? We combine them.
Exactly. It's all about uniting those opposites to create something new and more powerful.
Interesting.
So you take those salts and you dissolve them in a little bit of distilled water. And then very, very carefully, you combine that solution with the alcohol tincture from the first step.
And boom, we have our herbal elixir.
Pretty much.
It's amazing how it all comes together. So we've got this elixir, but how do you actually figure out the dosage? Like, how much do you take?
That's a great question. And it's not always an easy one to answer. Remember that alchemist physician we talked about earlier?
Paracelsus, yeah.
Well, he was really adamant about the importance of finding the correct dosage for each person. It's not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing.
So you can't just, like, gulp down a whole bottle of elixir.
No, definitely not. It's about finding the right balance. Not too much, not too little, just the right amount to nudge the body towards healing.
It's like finding that sweet spot.
Exactly. And it goes back to what we were talking about before, about respecting the body's own natural intelligence and working with it rather than trying to, overpower it.
All this talk about balance and harmony and working with nature reminds me of something else Frater Albertus mentions in his book. He says that even something seemingly harmless, like, I don't know, like water, could potentially be turned into a poison.
Oh, yeah, he talks about that.
And the other way around, too, right? Like a poison could be transformed into something beneficial.
Right, and it all depends on the intention behind it.
So it's not just about the physical process. It's also about the consciousness you bring to it.
Absolutely. And I think that's what's so fascinating about alchemy, this idea that our thoughts and intentions can actually have a tangible effect on the world around us. The alchemist isn't just a passive observer. They're an active participant, shaping and directing the transformation process.
It's almost like, alchemy isn't just about transforming physical substances. It's about transforming ourselves, too.
Exactly. And that brings us back to this concept of the philosopher's mercury and the ultimate goal of alchemy, the creation of the philosopher's stone.
Okay, now we're getting into some serious alchemical territory here. The philosopher's stone. What is this thing, and how do you make it?
Well, the philosopher's stone is kind of like the holy grail of alchemy. It's a legendary substance said to have all sorts of incredible powers, like the ability to transmute base metals into gold.
Whoa.
Yeah, and it's also said to have the power to heal any illness and even grant immortality.
Wow, so this is like some really powerful stuff.
It is, and the alchemists believe the philosopher's stone is made from this purified philosopher's mercury.
Okay, so if it's made from the philosopher's mercury, how do you actually get your hands on this mysterious substance?
Well, that's the central mystery of alchemy. The alchemists believed that the philosopher's mercury is hidden deep within the ores of metals.
Okay.
And it has to be very carefully extracted and purified through this long and complicated series of operations.
It's like unlocking a secret code hidden deep within the earth.
Yeah, kind of. But here's the thing. We're talking about herbal alchemy, right? We're working with plants, not with metals. So how does all this fit together?
Right, that's a good question. If we're not working with metals, how does this philosopher's stone thing even come into play?
Well, I think the key here is to understand that the alchemists saw their work with plants as a way to gain insights into the deeper mysteries of the universe.
So they were looking for those hidden connections, those like the threads that connect everything in creation?
Exactly. They believed that by understanding how nature works, how plants grow and transform, you could actually gain a deeper understanding of, things like the creation of metals.
So it's like they were studying nature to unlock the secrets of the cosmos.
Yeah, I think that's a really beautiful way to put it. And to do this, the alchemists developed this rich and complex symbolic language to express their understanding of the world.
Oh, so that's where those alchemical symbols come in.
Exactly. And that's what we're going to explore in the next part of our deep dive.
Ooh, I am so ready to decode some alchemical symbols. It's like cracking open a treasure chest full of ancient wisdom. Okay, so we're back and ready to unlock the secrets of the alchemists' symbolic language.
Right, those symbols you see in alchemical texts, those weren't just pretty pictures.
Yeah, I figured there was more to it than that.
The alchemists used those symbols to express complex ideas and also to kind of protect their knowledge from those who weren't ready for
It
it.
was like a secret code.
Exactly. So are you ready to start deciphering some of these symbols?
I'm ready. Hit me with some symbols.
Okay, let's start with a simple one. The symbol for gold.
Okay.
It's a circle with a dot in the center.
That's it.
That's it. And it represents the sun.
The sun, okay. That makes sense. Gold is, shiny and bright like the sun.
Right. And just like the sun is at the center of our solar system, gold was seen as the center of the alchemical world. It represented perfection, purity, and the culmination of the alchemical process.
So gold wasn't just valuable as a metal, it was also a symbol of spiritual transformation.
Exactly. Now, if gold is represented by the sun, what do you think silver is represented by?
Silver. Oh, the moon.
You got it. The symbol for silver is a crescent moon.
Okay, so gold is the sun, silver is the moon. What about Mercury?
Now the symbol for Mercury is even more interesting. It combines the circle of gold, the crescent of silver, and it adds a cross at the bottom.
Whoa, that's a lot going on in one symbol.
It is. And you can actually see how it relates to everything we've been talking about, you know?
How so?
Well, remember how we said that the philosopher's Mercury is the source of all metals?
Right.
So it contains the potential for both gold and silver within it. And then the cross at the bottom represents the earthly realm, where those celestial influences manifest.
So the symbol for Mercury, it's like a visual representation of how the spiritual and material worlds are connected.
Exactly. It's a beautiful symbol.
It is. But I have to ask, if these symbols were so important, why didn't the alchemists just share them with everyone?
That's a good question. And it really gets at the heart of the alchemical tradition.
Okay.
Remember that alchemist's oath we talked about earlier?
Yeah, the one about keeping their knowledge secret.
Well, it wasn't just about secrecy for secrecy's sake. It was about protecting the integrity of the alchemical work. They understood that these symbols, these ideas, they were powerful.
Right.
And they could be easily misinterpreted or even misused by those who weren't ready.
It's like giving someone a powerful tool before they know how to use it safely.
Exactly. It can be dangerous. You know, in a way, I think we can learn something from the alchemist's approach to knowledge.
What do you mean?
Well, we live in a world where information is so readily available.
Yeah, it's at our fingertips.
But do we always stop to think about the implications of that knowledge? You know, the ethical considerations, the deeper meaning behind it.
I know I don't always. I'm usually just trying to keep up with the latest news and trends.
Right. And that's understandable.
I see your point.
It's so easy to get caught up in the information overload and lose sight of the bigger picture.
Yeah, the why behind the what.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's where alchemy can offer a different perspective.
Okay.
Remember, alchemy is all about transformation.
Right, turning lead into gold.
Yes. But it's also about transforming ourselves, about refining our own consciousness, becoming more aware of the world around us and our place in it. And that's something we can all strive for, whether we're practicing alchemy in a lab or just trying to navigate our daily lives.
That's a powerful thought. So where do we go from here? What should our listeners do if they want to learn more about alchemy?
Well, I would encourage everyone to read the works of the alchemists themselves. You know, Frater Albertus is a great place to start, but there are so many others out there.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to experiment, to explore, and to see where this alchemical path leads you. Who knows what secrets you might uncover?
Well said. And on that note, thanks for joining us on this alchemical adventure.